Football. That's right. It's NFL Straya. I am your co-host, Jaymz Clements. I'm a guy. I'm actually here in the studio, the fancy one. On the other side of this here computer screen, however, he is a bloke. He's a sometime singer in a band called The Ramshackle Army, who played a couple of times on the weekend. He is my mate. He's your mate. It's Gaz. Gaz, what's going on?
I couldn't face you today, Jim. I was, after Monday Night Football today, I was like, you know what? I can do this if I'm like 20 Ks away. I just don't want to be in the room with Jim.
Because it would have been a lot of cry, Eagles, cry, etc. Just saying. Yeah, look, I haven't felt so good about the ending of a Monday Night Football game for ages. That was fantastic. Just you hate to see it. It was also because I was like stuck in a meeting earlier on today and I didn't get to put any bets on, so or else I probably would have...
Didn't lose any money.
Yeah, I would have 100% lost it anyway. Anyway, week 2 is done. What a chaos week it was. Absolute upsets galore. We've got some news. We've got the week 2 wrap because chaos just reigns. We need to wrap it all up for you. We've got some yeah-nahs to set you up, the big questions. What we're going to do with yeah-nahs as well is we did overreactions to week 1 last week. And the cool thing is when you're 0-2, we can overreact to that as well because it's important. So we will do that. We've also got the teams that are 2-0, which ones we believe in. We've got the weekly awards as per usual. We'll set you up for a bit of fantasy as well because I think this year, out of a lot of these years, especially since we've been doing this show, fantasy has it been more chaotic? It is flat stick at this point. So talk about like fluctuations in players and stuff. We'll talk about some of the big names that went off and which ones didn't deliver, etc. And then we'll set up week 3 and pick all the games for you because, look, we're a full run podcast for you. That's what we do.
Full service. We're a full service team over here at NFL Straya.
We are. All right. This is episode 102 of NFL Straya. Let's go. Yeah. 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 Go Eagles. Yeah. 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 Go Eagles. Yeah. That's how I do the tush push. Oh, g'day, this is Jason Kelsey, and I'm currently commentating during the Monday Night Football game on ESPN, and you're listening to NFL Straya. All right, Gaz. All right. It was good to have a lot of, was that like ESPN Philly doing the broadcast from the Monday Night Football game? That was weird.
I don't know, mate.
Jeez.
But it was the way that it was him getting his outfit from Big Dom, like knocks on the door. Oh, I'm here for the game, Dom. You don't fucking work here anymore. I was like, Jesus Christ, he's just living his best life, isn't he?
I love
it.
I mean, Jason Kelsey just might be my spirit animal, even though I'm older than him. Like, what is going on? He's like just 10 and beers. He's on all the pre-game, in the game. Absolute chaos. I love that. Anyway.
Attending his own tailgate without needing, it was great.
I feel like we should have been tailgating today as well for that. It's not often we actually get a really good opportunity where the sun's out in Melbourne and there's a Philly game in the actual sort of, the proper prime time. So you're like, Tuesday tins, why not? But we missed that opportunity because, I don't know, we're both working.
I'm drinking my fucking sorrows, mate.
Nice.
So it's not even 5 o'clock and Gaz is on the beers.
Love it.
But we're going to get to something a little... Like, I always try and guess what you're going to bring. You're going to launch the episode with that, it's been a couple of Mahomes and Kelsey things in the last couple of weeks, and I always try and guess. There's something coming up later that I thought was going to be your highlight, that was going to be that thing, and I'll point it out when we get to it.
All right. Too easy. Well... I think the biggest sort of news out of this week straight away was like the chaos results. Like we had underdogs absolutely everywhere covering, if not outright winning, to the point where I think I do have a note about this that in terms of like actual underdogs and how unexpected this week was. I think anytime that anyone has been, especially, and I'll get to my point in a second. I have because it's like it's one of these things we always need to remember, and we never bloody do. I think underdogs so far this year, like 6+ point underdogs are 8-0 already through this year, which is incredible. Wow. And smashing it, which is no problem. And to the point where a bunch of them are winning. But this just comes back to the simple fact, every goddamn year, Gaz, it's not the start of the season. This is still preseason, basically. Like as soon as the teams stop playing in preseason games and like playing their actual starters, we've noticed this trend over the last 5 years, right? Like you and I have banged on about this every single year on NFL Straya. The first 4 weeks are rooted. Like simple as that, right? Like,
what do we know? Absolutely fucking nothing.
We know nothing until like
Absolutely
week 7, basically, at this point. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing. And I went through, I reckon, I was doing the Thursday little week 2 preview that we put out as well. And I had like 4 or 5 games where I'm like, I am certain this is going to happen. They did not happen that way, like at all.
No.
There was no chance. Like if we talk about some of the results, it was, I figured Jacksonville would bounce back. Cleveland looked trash. Did not happen. I figured we'd sort of see Baltimore bounce back, destroy and ate the Raiders. Did not happen. Indy would take care of the Malik Willis Green Bay Packers. No stress whatsoever. We figured I kind of flipped my script on the Arizona Rams game, but, you're right there. Cincy, KC, who knew what was going to happen there? Pittsburgh, Denver, you figured Denver would put up a fight. None of these things happen, right?
No.
And, it's because this is still basically preseason for all the players, and here we are. Anyway, other bits. Remember Friday? Tua.
A while ago.
That sucked.
Dude, that whole game, because obviously Jimmy and I were playing each other in fantasy this week, and there were quite big implications in this game. So I was like, I'm going to pay attention while I'm at work. And it was like the whole thing just turned shit. Right? It was even Josh Allen was not putting up scores, but it was like, it's all right. Tua's just did this last week. Start off slow. We'll get Waddle and Hill into it, and then you went down, and you're like, oh no, and then his family's rushed immediately to the fucking rooms, and you're like, that's not fucking great.
Well, he does the fencing motion again, and you're like, wait a minute, so that's a concussion, and that's 4. Yep. So this is the official line. It's 4 diagnosed concussions in the last 5 years, and if you cast your mind back, there was like 2 really close together. But prior to that, they were saying it wasn't a concussion. It's like something went on with his neck, and everyone else is like, sir, I'm pretty sure that was a concussion.
That's a concussion.
And so if you ask me, not a medical doctor, 5, I'd say probably 5, and away we go. But we're going to hit on this in ENRs, but it just sort of sets up just a really shit situation for Tua. Like, what happens next? It's all in the hands of the doctors and what Tua decides to do, etc. And Miami, in the meantime, are like, can Tom Brady not buy the Raiders and can he start for us? Like, what are we doing here? Fucking hell. So there's no real news about Tua at the moment because they're waiting on like MRIs, they're waiting on scans, all this sort of stuff. And we sort of just get stuck in this shitty holding pattern basically until we find out what's actually going to happen with him, right?
Yeah, 100%.
What's your vibe?
Yeah, look, it's so hard to tell from being on the outside of him. McDaniel's come and said, look, what did he say? Pat him on the back and said, go be the starting quarterback for your family right now kind of thing. I think that was the quote. But, I mean, you try and separate yourself as a football fan from the human, right? Like, this guy is... whether he plays or not or has any further damage on the field, the CTE shit is real.
Oh, yeah.
And he just keeps copping a belting to the fucking head. So, he's actually a couple of years of consistency and a good team around him and a supportive coach. And you were like, holy fuck, this could be, we were talking about this could be Tua's year. And now all of a sudden it's all in jeopardy again. You're like, fuck, I don't want to comment on it because once again, Jim, not a medical doctor.
Yeah. I think... the weirdest part was, so he obviously got through last year okay, and it was like, all right, sick. This is why I think I had in the power rankings last week. Miami, look, they should be fine as long as Tua's healthy. Like, you can see the weapons. They're fucking loaded for bear. Their defense might have some questions, but they're still Miami, right? Mm-hmm. That's the thing. You sort of go, but if Tua gets hurt, they're fucked. And here we are. And they did sort of say, I think, heading into this season, he'd bulked. He'd gotten skinnier, I think. Yeah. After last year, he got bigger and did judo, which was sick. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do some kung fu. And this year he sort of got skinnier again. It's like, I don't know if that's a smart idea, Tua. What are you doing? But I think Rappaport came out and said, a day or two ago that he's got no plans to retire. He's just seeing concussion specialists and all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
But there's no timeline yet. So we're basically just waiting until we find out any more. It's shit. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other news.
But I think the other thing too, sorry
right.
to stick on this one point because, sometimes we have an episode that goes for 2 hours. That just was kind of unnecessary. The play itself, the way, if you've got that history, surely.
The way he went into it. What are you doing?
He ran head fucking first, Jim. And you're like, dude, really? Like, I get it. You just in the speed of the moment and you're just trying to get those extra yards. But also, I'm not a multi-millionaire quarterback who's got a history of concussions, right? And my team falls apart without it.
Not
so
yet.
I'll be teaching him.
Not yet, you're not.
Yeah. No,
not with
yeah,
that attitude. Not with that attitude, you won't be. Fucking hell. There's still time, the way Jalen Hurts led that last drive, you might actually get a bit
I've
of a
got a
nod.
shot here. Yeah, I've got a shot.
Yeah, I think the little bit that you left out there was that he ran into DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Hang on. You
The
should know
Netflix
better,
special
sir.
is already being written. Yep.
Jesus. Brutal gear. Right, other little bits and bobs. Bryce Young. Now, Gaz, if you were the first overall pick from last year, do you think you'd be benched by week 3? I don't know, but here we are.
Nope.
First quarterback selected in the common draft era, so you have to go back to 1967, or as we call it here, 19-diggity-7. First one to be benched for a non-injury reason in his second season. That's is
bad,
Dave
Jim.
Canales going, this guy's shit. What? Oh, God, what are we doing? We better start Andy Cooked Dalton. What the hell? This is amazing, Gaz.
Yeah, that's pretty. I just don't know, I don't know what to say because on one hand, they've traded away every legit weapon that team had. And the other fact that came up the other day that we all forget about is that DJ Moore, CMC, and Ryan Burns were all like 26 or under when they got traded away. And actually, they squandered the first, the picks they got for them. And then I've revisited it a little bit further. But the trade that they got to get, or they gave away to the Bears to get Bryce, they sold themselves into a fucking hole that, they've hitched their wagon to a guy that they gave no weapons to. And now they're saying, fucking, why are you no good? Right? It's fucking weird.
So
I don't know. Mismanaged teams.
I've got 2 different reports from actually this Panthers game, which is pretty fun. Like 2 different mates actually at this separately, which is pretty fun. And they fucking hated it. And the Panthers fans hated it. Like they're just like, nah, this is, no good. And then you watch it and you're like, oh God, he's horrible. What is he doing? We'll talk about it again later, but being benched for Andy Dalton after 2 weeks, it's not great. It's not great. Not great. The other bits and bobs are really basically injury-based, and a lot of this is pretty bloody big. Cooper Kupp. This sucks because I didn't actually, take a victory lap as much as I ought to have last week because, it's Cooper Kupp. You never know what's going to happen. Puka Nacua goes down. I'm like, I'm heavily invested in Cooper Kupp in both my fantasy leagues. And 1 week later, he's fucking out for a big chunk of time, maybe on the IR, and that's not good. To the point where Sean McVay's like, bloody hell, we've already got too many dudes on the IR. I don't know if we can actually put him on the IR. And you're like, that is a bit shit. So that checks out. Isaiah Pacheco, another one that I think I've got in one of my fantasy teams, out for 4 to 6 weeks with a fractured fibula. That sucks. Interesting one for KC as well, considering that there were moments where with Pacheco, they were still putting Carson Steele out there anyway in week 1 and 2. But without him, you're like, oh, that's not good. This offense wasn't really cooking this week anyway, which we'll get to later. But geez, AJ Brown, weeks, Gaz. What was the actual injury?
It's like his hamstring. So it was a weird thing that popped up in practice. Like he just appeared on the practice. I think it was Friday on the injury report, and it was just tightness. And then it went from it went to doubtful on like Saturday, and then he was questionable up until last night, to the point where I woke up yesterday morning and he was out went to bed and checked the fantasy team and he was still questionable. Wake up and like for the 3 a.m. games and like, oh, he's fucking out. Where did this come from? And then the interview with him before the game was it was a freak accident or not accident, but it was a freak injury at practice. He just came up tight and now they're saying it's fucking weeks. You know, tightness, you think, well, it's all right. Give it a bit of rest for a couple of days, walk it off, she'll be right. But he's come out and said he thinks it's going to be weeks.
Jesus.
We could fucking do with him, Muffed, based on today's performance.
Joe Mixon hurt his ankle in a hip drop. I absolutely love that they were like, we're going to ban hip drops, and they've done absolutely nothing to ban hip drops. There's been many. They did do
a full breakdown when this happened, and I kind of get it because it wasn't they didn't give it a penalty, but then when they broke down the four things that need to be like the boxes that you need to tick for it to be a hip drop, it basically makes it impossible to call it a hip drop during the game because you're not going to be able to do those things. But under review, it's going to be a whole bunch of fines.
At the same time, there are so many fucking things in an NFL game where it's like, we need to tick these boxes to throw a flag. And it's like, what's a catch? What's not a catch? Like, the amount of times that we're just like, fuck it, flag. Yep. Instead, on a hip drop, I was like, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
We'll check it later. It's like, what? Yeah. What are we doing here? This is insane. Anyway, DeForest Buckner for Indy. Indy just fucking decimated by a bunch of these injuries as well, especially the defense. It's getting worse. Outside of that, we had Deebo Samuel.
Yep. That's not
is missing multiple weeks with a calf strain. So, hey, Brandon Ayuk, remember how you got paid a bunch of money because you were fucking
and I've done fuck all since.
And you've done nothing? Come on, man. And obviously, the actual dudes who have gone to the IR since we...
Yeah, there were a couple of updates that happened since last week, so I thought it was worth mentioning.
Christian McCaffrey on the actual IR now with his Achilles tendonitis, which is fair. You don't fuck with Achilles, guys.
No. And then Shanahan's come out going, look, we don't know. He doesn't know. The doctors don't know. We just want to put him on IR to give ourselves 4 weeks where he can't injure himself. We can't injure him.
Yeah.
Because there's no temptation to use him. Just go fucking rest up, knacker bags.
Love it.
See you in 4 weeks.
And then obviously the other one was for Puka Nacua on the Rams. So he goes on it. And like they've already got, I think, was it John Johnson, the safety, Jonah Jackson. This sounds like a bunch of like fucking Spider-Man characters at this point. What about Josh Jackson? Fucking Pacey from fucking Dawson's Creek and also former Phoenix Suns player. Their kicker is like injured. Like Garoppolo is now off the suspension list as well. But anyway, there's just like...
we haven't got any of them here, but like... I think that was also what was amazing about Tampa Bay's victory this week. They had a bunch of fucking outs this week as well.
A bunch of dudes already on the list. There was some more sort of floating around going into the weekend. Like Breece Hall was carrying like a quads injury and all that sort of stuff. But it's all, I don't know. We'll find out more later.
Do you reckon there's going to be once again in the overreactions? You know what, Jim? If they just played preseason where they got a series or two in and eased into it rather than playing nothing and then being thrown in for an entire game and end up with these crazy soft tissue injuries, not major injuries, but just niggling soft tissue injuries that wouldn't have occurred if they'd eased fucking into it.
We talk about this every year. Like this is it. Like you think about week 4, like the first 4 weeks of the actual season now essentially being the preseason where all the injuries then happen anyway. It just used to happen in the preseason. You're like, man,
I just want to get rid of preseason.
I just want to get rid of preseason. What the fuck? And now it's like happening in the actual season. So it's sort of, what can you do? And there's no easy way around it, obviously, and it just sort of sucks. So anyway, hey, let's talk about some of the games. That's right, the week 2 wraps. Flying through these, let's do it. 31-10 Buffalo looked good. You hear about them in the power rankings because I didn't think they'd be this good, and they were real good. Josh Allen didn't have to do too much because James Cook went, hey, check this out. I'm fucking awesome. And he was great. Achan did everything for the Dolphins because they were out. Most of it was already out hurt. They basically, obviously, Tua gets banged up anyway. Achan was just running rampant, but they could never do anything with it. They scored 10 fucking points. So they were kind of bad. And like, there's a couple of teams, you know, how we always sort of talk about like one or two teams each year from the playoffs the year prior just fucking fall from grace out of absolutely nowhere, like due to injuries or just something goes all fucking haywire. Miami already looked like one of those teams, right? And it's not good. It's a bit shit. No. And that's when you start turning the blowtorch onto Mike McDaniels and go, hey, it's kind of cute that you're cool and like rad and I love you. Is your team going to be good ever? What are you doing, dude? What are you doing? Meanwhile, the 3 touchdowns to James Cook, that's exactly what Buffalo needed to do, right? Like, you don't need to fucking rely on Josh Allen with a busted hand, slinging it to like fucking Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman and stuff. Just run over the top of him. And they did that on the road on Thursday Night Football. That was really good. Very impressed. New Orleans, Dallas, Gaz, 44-19. My note for this was wow. Like 44-19, Alvin Kamara goes off. Take it away.
So, I don't know where to start. How about I start at this point? Jim, is there a point in the season where you admit that maybe Dennis Allen is a good coach?
I will never admit that. Never.
I'm listening to raps from, watching the highlights and listening to raps from other pods around, Heed the Call and stuff like that. And they're talking about Dennis Allen and I'm like, Jim just must be fucking hating this because I know you were reveling in him being the first coach sacked.
I fucking hate it. I hate him. But the thing is, I love that everyone has gone, wait, no, Dennis Allen isn't good. Clint Kubiak's a fucking mastermind. Like, that's the thing. Everyone's realized it's first-year offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, who's a fucking weapon, smart-ass genius. He's crushing it. And, like, Dennis Allen sucks. It's all of Clint Kubiak for me.
And they're saying, like, oh, maybe Derek Carr has just been a victim of just fuckhead coaches for all this time. He got his expensive contract because he was quite good for a while there in the Raiders, and then he just had your fucking mate Josh, who didn't go too well for him, and then it wasn't a great start, New Orleans, and now all of a sudden it's fucking great. 15 straight scoring drives, Jim.
It's awesome.
They've started the season with 15 straight scoring drives. That's fucking wild. This game was over like very, very fucking early. And then Alvin Kamara, it's like last year he looked slow as shit and we were like, this guy's gone. He's done. He ran it in 4 times against this Cowboys defense that was like, look at that defensive line. Look at Micah Parsons. That's secondary. It's all right. It's next man up. We got Jordan Lewis back. It's fine. We got Diggs back. It's fine. Yeah. Wow. That was just an absolute carve up. That Carr to fucking Shaheed connection is kind of legit, right?
Yeah.
I thought last week. So in our fantasy league, he auto drafted to me. Anyway, fucking Shaheed's sitting on my bench for 2 weeks, Jim. You know who wasn't sitting on my bench? The fucking 4 points I got from Tyreek Hill.
Nice.
This connection is real, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this division turns, because even what happened with Atlanta today, they weren't amazing, but all of a sudden Baker's doing some noisy shit in Tampa Bay, and you're like, all of a sudden the South could be a bit spicy, right?
The NFC South is suddenly a powerhouse. Like, go figure.
It's weird.
It's nuts.
It's weird. And Dallas's run defense is not fucking great.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
I don't know how Alvin Kamara went from like not being able to like basically only be able to beat up like a dude in a fucking elevator to like and not being able to do anything on the field to like, oh wait, I'm awesome again. And everyone who plays fantasy is like, oh, come on, man. Like, fuck. God, you were cooked. What are we doing? Anyway, that was a huge win. They kicked the shit out.
That was fucking, and then they ran their own parade at the front of AT&T Stadium. Nice. Yeah.
All right, Tampa, 20, Detroit, 16. Crazy game. 1 million passes from Goff. And it was Baker.
Like 55.
It was amazing.
The box score, they absolutely dominated in literally every category, as in the Lions did. They beat them all around the park except for the scoreboard, Jim.
Well, I think the weirdest part is that it's sort of, I think this was there was no scores in the fourth quarter for this one from memory.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was such a weirdly fun-paced game in the dome where you're like, oh yeah, Goff is just going to keep passing. And he did, the 55 fucking attempts versus 19 for Baker. And you're like, oh yeah, something's going to pop. And it just never did in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It was fucking nuts. And Baker leading basically the drive that'll just the Godwin drive where it's just like, bang, hit it to Godwin, bang, hit it to Godwin, bang, just hit it to Godwin again, was awesome. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, there was something like his
awesome.
first 7 completed passes or something like that were all to Chris Godwin, including a touchdown.
That's so good.
That's what. And he was the leading rusher on the team as well.
And Baker, basically, you forget how sneaky he can be with his rushing, and he was really good. He was fucking fantastic. That team is legitly hilarious, and I love him. So
they're on the back of him, right? He's just got this fuck you chip on his shoulder. Which, I mean, he showed that when he came in that one game at the Rams where he'd been there for 2 days and came in and won a game. We were like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's crazy.
But this year, I think we all thought that, there was that honeymoon period of last year when he got him to the playoffs and that's that 1 year wonder kind of thing, full-time starter. But, mate, he only had to put up 85 yards and 34 on the ground. But he fucking did enough. He looked
Meanwhile,
exciting.
He's got Aiden Hutchinson fucking trying to kill him with 5 sacks. That was
5
insane.
sacks. Yeah, he was on that was 3 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And I think the Lions record, they told us once or twice, Jim, during the broadcast, but the Lions record was 5.5.
Not bad.
So he was only half a sack off, but he was just it was an absolute monster. When you look at those stats and go, he was fucking in Baker's face, St. Brown at 120 yards, fucking Jared Goff passing 55 times. These guys they've romped at home.
100%.
Nope.
No, they did not. It was crazy. Yeah, you look at all, as you said, you look at all the stats, you're like, Detroit killed him. Nope, they did not.
Yep.
They lose. That's
did not.
insane. Amon-Ra, he had the sort of bounce back in terms of yardage. He never got in for a touchdown again though, which is a bit weird. And it's it sort of seems like that's, I mean, there was a weird fuck up at the end of the first half. You had Dan Campbell taking responsibility for it. It's like, yeah, the coach let him down. It's like, you're the coach. Oh, I get it.
Yep.
You're doing a thing.
But it was a bit wild, just for clarity for people. They were trying to work the clock and get down, and they'd worked it well to the point where they needed to spike the ball, bring the field goal team on. But Jim, half the field goal team tried to run out for the spike, and that just ran out. No, sorry, what was a penalty and it ran the clock 10 seconds, and the clock ran out.
Yeah, I think it's a penalty.
There's points.
I think it's a penty sometimes when you got 25 dudes on the field. So,
something like that. Yeah.
Nice one. Great win by Tampa Bay. Cleveland, they beat Jacksonville 18-13 in a game that fucking sucked. The Jags got Peterson again. They also got Trevor Lawrence again. Gaz, I put it to you. Is he any good? I just don't know. I watch it. You're watching Trevor Lawrence. You're like, here we go. This is the winning drive. And he sails the ball over another fucking dude's head. And you're like, oh, hang on. Is he shit? He looks, as I said this last year, right, real early on, he looks the part.
Yeah.
He looks awesome throwing a ball. But the ball doesn't go where it should go. Which means he's a bit shit.
We need a coin a term of he's the red zone player, Jim. As that I'm talking about not in the red zone, I'm talking about NFL red zone.
Yep.
So, like we mentioned last week with Richardson, if you just watched red zone, you would think that Trevor Lawrence and Richardson are fucking fantastic. But all you see is those half a dozen very, very pretty passes in a game, and then the rest are kind of rubbish.
Yeah.
Or his receivers are dropping the ball. Or Nuggy P's calling some fucking weird and wonderful thing, right? And that's where, we get in the arguments about, you left points on the board and whether Dan Campbell should go for his fourth down or Nicky Sriracha should have done it today. Peterson has been wildly successful being aggressive, right? I'm okay with that because as long as you're consistent with it and they're kicking out at times, but then there's some really fucking head-scratching moves where you're like, What did you think the outcome was going to be, Dougie? Like, fuck. This was the game that had the onside safety punt, Jim.
Yeah, loved it. Like, it's just, they look so bad at times. Like, they don't know what they're doing. Defensively, It's like, how do you, like, Cleveland, Deshaun was fine. Like, he wasn't abjectly shit like he was the week prior. He wasn't good.
Yeah.
He was still sailing. It was like a fucking sail-off. It's like they're fucking in some sort of regatta or head of the lake in Ballarat, but that's rowboat, so it's a bit different. But they're sailing shit over the fucking top of everyone's heads. And you're like, this is horrible. And then Jacksonville still had a chance to go down and win it, and they just couldn't. And you're like, no, this is just sad. So anyway, fuck that. Jacksonville stink. Cleveland, both, like, they're 1-1 now. That's hilarious. Niners, Minnesota, 17-23. So I actually got a game report from my Niners mates. They're like, yeah, we don't win in Minnesota. I'm like, oh, fuck, I didn't know that. It's like, no, haven't won there since 1992.
Really? Fuck.
Crazy.
I didn't know that one.
And they're on a short week. They were more worried about Kittle coming off, but it turns out he just had like a really brutal cramp. I think there was a moment where Justin Jefferson looked like he got hurt. George Kittle looked like he got hurt. And Bosa looked like he got hurt. And they're like, it was all within a really short time frame. You're like, oh, hey, that's not good. But mostly I think they were just sort of like the travel, the short week. Purdy just looked a bit funky. And it just happens sometimes. Like the defense wasn't quite on. And Minnesota got a 97 fucking yard touchdown from Justin Jefferson.
That was fucking sick. So that was like, he was backed up in his end zone. Darnold just hoiks it going, one of the best receivers in the league is down there somewhere.
Just take it to the house.
Yeah, and he just fucking did. And you're like, oh, hello. But they did it without Addison as well. Like there's some other people to come back into that team. But I guess the alarming stuff from a San Fran point of view is the reviews on their defense haven't been great. I think they blitzed like 3 times, and Darnold was 100% passer rating and scored a touchdown on the couple of times they blitzed and didn't get home. But on the other side, that the Minnesota defense is going okay. Flores he's got him up and spicy.
Yeah.
And Purdy was pressured quite significantly. So yeah, it'd be interesting. I didn't realize that there was such a record between Minnesota and San Fran not being able to.
I think the biggest thing for the Niners is quite simply no CMC, no Deebo now. It's getting pretty fucking threadbare on offense, but they should probably be fine. If there's like one more, you're going to be in trouble. Anyway, Chargers kicked the fuck out of Carolina. Bryce Young's lost 26-3. Oh, Carolina. They fucking suck. J.K. Dobbins was unstoppable again, 131 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He's awesome. My favorite part was, though, Quentin Johnson out of nowhere. Former first rounder from last year. I love him. 2 tutties and a 51 yards, 51 yards in the air. Herbs. Jim Harbaugh was just like, buddy, we're going to bring you along slow. It's just like, you need to learn slowly. And Herb's like, I want to throw 350 yards. And Jim Harbaugh's like, no, you can throw for 130. That's all they're letting you do.
That's weird. Like, he's come from an offense where he had, at its peak, we'll forget about the last couple of years. But, in his early days, you're like, Eckler's with, touchdowns out of the receiving touchdowns out of the backfield. You've got Keenan Allen on his way to the Hall of Fame. You've got Mike Williams in the 3 games a year that he was fucking healthy. You've got, we've got some weapons out there, and Juzzy Herb's just doing shit himself, and then getting some stuff with his legs and his rocket arm, and then all of a sudden Harbaugh comes in and goes, no, you know what? We're going to get 2 fucking running backs from the Ravens who are always injured. I'm going to look like a fucking genius, and you're going to take a back seat, Juzzy. And he's like, well, what? So what?
Well,
it's working. He doesn't argue with it.
He doesn't really have too many receivers, all right? It's still True. Quentin Johnston, as I mentioned, from last year. Hopefully he turns into something. Josh Palmer was carrying an injury as well. Sure. He only had 2 for 19. You got Will Dissly and Ladd McConkey, and
Yeah.
Lad
Hayden
McConkey,
Hurst
like,
has been
sure,
going
but
around
that's
there. Yeah.
like, here we are. Anyway, Chargers are sticking out east as well, which is kind of fun. And you know that Jim Harbaugh's probably got some fun shit lined up for them for this week, so that'll be good. Seattle Pats 23-20 in overtime. The perfect game, Gaz. The perfect fucking game for the Pats. Why? This is what I want. I want it close. I want
Close,
the
but no
defense looking
cigar.
good. But I want them to keep losing because we don't have enough talent. I want a top 3 pick. Come on. I was like sitting there. This is one of the very few times in my life I'm watching my team and going, we're going overtime. Fuck, I hope they lose it overtime. Like it was, I'm like, I don't want to, what is happening? God, just lose already. And then they eventually did lose. We had Antonio Gibson with 96 yards. I'm like, that's awesome. Sure. Hunter Henry had 109. Which is remarkable because I'm like watching Brisket and I'm like, I don't think he's thrown past the line of scrimmage yet. We'll find out. And here we are. But this is cool. Like, just keep doing this. This is exactly what they need to do for the first 8-9 weeks of the season. Then we roll Drake May out there. You got a solid defense. Everything else looks good. I like Mayo. Here we go. Laughing. As for Seattle, I fucking told you so. I'm not going to take a complete victory lap yet because they've beaten fucking Denver and New England. Possibly 2 of the 3 worst teams in the NFL. But at the same time, they've won both. So that's good. They haven't won them wildly convincing. But Geno looked fine. Zach Charbonnet steps in for Kenny. Charbonnet got the touchdown. Geno threw for a 328 because DK went off. 129 and a touchdown. So Seattle, like, they have the sketching moments of, like, they have the outline of a good team. I want them to fill it in as the year goes on, and I'm hoping Mike McDonald does that. Mike McDonald. Fucking too many Mikes and Micks, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy that the Pats, like, not to be, fucking sucked in, but yeah, lose that game. That's fine. I'm not stressed. It's good. You're a bad team.
I don't want to like rain on your parade, Jim. But you're showing enough spice that you're gonna win some games.
I think
if Miami turns to shit and Tua's out for an extended period of time and they can't get the ball to Waddle and Tyreek, like, your defense might shut down some second-rate quarterbacks.
There are a couple more injuries and we'll be fucked.
And Jake Brisket will we'll squeak some out, mate. So I don't think you're gonna be as bad this year as you hope you are.
Yeah, they're bad. Don't worry. Trust me, they're bad. Baltimore, 23. Raiders, 26. What the hell? The Raiders. What the fuck was that? They're up 23-13 with 12 minutes left, Gas. Absolute chaos. You got the Gardner, Gardner Minshew, Top Gun. 3 scoring drives in the fourth quarter. Devontae Adams has 110 yards, 98 for Brock Bowers. He was fantastic down the stretch.
Yeah.
Carlson kicks that game-winning field goal, essentially to put him up with 27 seconds left. And, like, this was the worst part for me, was watching the Lamar game-winning drive. He had it. Why is he passing it backwards? Like, he just took it and ran, which is, all right, no Hail Mary, fuck it. He saw a bit of a gap. He was through. He had, like, 2 dudes to beat. That's one juke. And away we go. Instead, he rugby passes it, and Justice Hill was like, why have I got the ball? I'm like, Lamar passed it perfectly to him rugby style as well. Like the backwards pass, perfect, no worries. Yep. And Justice Hill's like, what the fuck do I do? And you're like, and he almost did the, what was it, fucking Mac Jones last year, just the, and just like, just throw it to the other fucking team. But it was almost perfectly executed. And it's like one of those things I'm like, as it's unfolding, I'm like, someone's figured it out. Rugby and rugby league is not fucking rocket surgery. Obviously, it's very, very, very far from rocket surgery. League, union, but at the same time, you know how they move the ball down the fucking field? By passing it backwards. It's not difficult. Come on. You've got top-notch athletes. Boom. Lamar kind of had it. And then he sort of just panicked a little bit. And there was no sort of following, dude. And you're like, I was right there. I was riding that. And then I didn't. Anyway. Derrick Henry, 84 and a touchdown as well. But Baltimore, what the fuck was that?
That's fucking weird.
just shit their pants territory at home in front of that home crowd, up in the fourth quarter by 10, and they lost. Absolute chaos, guys. Absolute chaos.
Yeah, I mean, that's still, even on defense, it was 5 sacks and 9 tackles for loss. So it wasn't like Minshew was running over them.
No, it was like they put the cue in the rack. It's like, this game's over. It's like, not yet.
Nope.
Fucking hell.
Nope.
Absolute chaos. I couldn't, but like, they're now 0-2 for the first time since, 05 or something? First time.
And they're playing a questionable Cowboys team next week. So
Crazy.
what we thought would be a high-powered battle shootout. Here we go. Prime time, let's fucking roll. And all of a sudden you're like, who are these teams?
It was brutal. That's what, this is a week 2 special, that one. Indy 10, Green Bay 16. What the hell? What the absolute hell, Indy? You were meant to be good. Green Bay have Malik Willis. And Matt LaFleur went, no, I don't. Run this ball, Josh Jacobs. Basically just went, Malik Willis is not going to kill us. Check this out. And he didn't. It was pretty good.
So Jordan Love's gone out, Jim. You've got Malik Willis, who was questionable at best in Tennessee, and had one pass against the Eagles last week and didn't even get it off. He got sacked. So if I'm Indianapolis's defensive, I'm just going to assume they're going to run, Jim.
You'd think that.
The breakup was 14 pass attempts to 53 runs, Jim.
Yep.
I think a couple of that was some wide receiver handoffs, end arounds, all that sort of stuff. But Josh Jacobs ran the ball 32 times.
They had 261 total yards on the ground.
Yep.
And Indy was still like, let's play 2 deep safeties. It's like, it's Malik Willis. Just have like 11 dudes at the line of scrimmage and you probably stop them. What are you doing?
Yep.
Absolute chaos. Indy, for being so dumb, you deserve to lose that game. Sucked in. Josh Jacobs, 151. I mean, that's awesome. LaFleur, like this always looks screwy as well because the line never really sort of blew out. It was like 4.5 or something, I think, as we were picking it last week. And Indy lived up to the billing of being dumb. And Anthony Richardson, 3 interceptions did not help.
No.
So anyway, that was not good. Jets, Tennessee, 24-17. Aaron Rodgers, for the second week, like Aaron Rodgers, 2 touchdowns, gets his first win as a Jet properly, technically, that he finished the game in. But really, it's Will Levis going, hey, check this out. I'm going to do the dumbest thing imaginable.
Dude, the camera angle of what the fuck are you doing on the sidelines as he just walks off the field to go and meet his coach, Jim, for some words of encouragement. Just pat me on the back and tell me everything's going to be okay. What the fuck are you doing?
It's like me to the dog. It's like the dog's like barking. So I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
That was amazing. But it was unexpected. Like, for those who didn't see it, who were listening at home, he was going down. This is the second week in a row that he was going down and he's decided, I've got a guy over there somewhere. Unlike last week, he actually did have a guy over there. Unfortunately, he threw it backwards to a guy who wasn't expecting the fucking ball. And it ended up with a backward pass /fumble/turnover. And you're like, dude, no.
He is absolutely remarkable. Like, just, it was some of the dumbest shit ever. But what the fuck are you doing from Brian Callahan is just next level, and I loved every second.
It was amazing. But look, Aaron Rodgers, he actually led. It was game tied, and he led that game. So you kind of do a few things in there. You're like, oh, maybe the Jets will be okay.
So that's the thing that I'm talking about with this 4 weeks to start the season, right? Like, I feel like the Jets, this is like fucking Aaron Rodgers doesn't even know half his teammates' names because he hasn't been there all fucking offseason, as we know. He's like, who the fuck is this guy? It's like, that's Breece Hall, idiot. He's like, Bryce? Breece. Okay, I got it. Who's this other guy? It's like, that's Garrett Wilson. He's Gary Wilson. Fucking, I've never heard of you. And basically, so he's just like, I don't know any of these motherfuckers. And like, give him 4 weeks though, then we can start judging the Jets. They'll probably kick the fuck out of the Pats this weekend. It'll be tighter than we expect. But by the time that week 5, 6 roll around, I expect them to Like, this is the sort of game that you just fucking hope you win early on as you're sort of putting it all together. And luckily, Will Levis is Will Levis, and they did. They gave up 17 points off mistakes, Tennessee. That's fucking insane. Braylon Allen crushing it. Had the game winner. Very nice. Giants, Washington Gaz, 21-18.
I don't want to talk too much about this game.
This is still
it was fucked.
The most amazing game of the weekend because Washington did nothing except for kick field goals.
Yeah.
And the Giants, as you have pointed out, first team to ever win while scoring 3 touchdowns while the opposition scores none.
Yeah. Sorry. They were the first team. Sorry, New Giants were the first team to lose.
Yep. It's remarkable.
When you score 3 touchdowns and the other team scores 0.
Absolutely.
And Brian Daboll did the magic spike at the headset afterwards, like, what the fuck?
So,
when you look at the stats, Jim, like Daniel Jones and that fucking contract, losing games while passing 2 touchdowns, sure, 178 yards. But Neighbours, second week for the rookie, was targeted 18 times.
Chaos.
He only passed 28 times, Jim.
That's a pretty hefty percentage. Not bad.
Yeah. I think it's like, you've invested me in the shiny new toy. I'm going to use that shiny new toy, Jim. Can't use it to fucking win.
The weird scores for the Giants is also because Gano got hurt. Going into the game, he was already hurt, so they fucked that. Anyway, Rams, Arizona, don't need to hit on this one much. They kicked the fuck out of them, 41-10. What a statement game. Marvin Harrison Jr. goes off. He had 2 touchdowns before you could fucking blink. It was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. A 20 and a 60-yarder or something. He had 130 yards in the first half or whatever.
This is one of the things. I think I had the Rams in our picks last week, but I definitely bet Arizona because I realized how injured the Rams were in the secondary and stuff. And once I dug into that, like, for 2 more seconds, I'm like, oh, shit, I'm betting on Arizona, and they fucking killed him. So, happy days. James Conner runs angry. We know that. He fucking looked really good. So, happy days.
It could have been, to be honest, it could have been worse because it was such a blow. You don't actually know how. It'll be interesting to see these guys playing against a full strength team and seeing whether the Cardinals have to play from gun to gun kind of thing. Because once again, as it was Q in the rack kind of shit. In the second half, it was Dunskies.
Yep.
And they still put up, with that score the way it was, they still put up a score in the last quarter where the Rams had nothing left. They just no soldiers, mate.
Yep. This was done at halftime. I'm going to skip one of the other games. Pittsburgh 13, Denver 6. This game sucked. Just gross. Just gross. Pittsburgh, they look better with Jussie Fields than they did with Kenny Pickett last year, which is cool. And that's the entire thing about Pittsburgh 2-0.
Fucking low bar, for
because,
sure.
Kenny Pickett was that shit. He couldn't do anything. Jussie Fields can do a little bit, and that's all it needs because that defense is so fucking good. Like, they just ruined Bo Nix's life even more. So, Bo Nix against this D had 0 chance, and he throws the funniest interceptions, I think. Like, he's just like, oh, no, I don't care. Check this out. And then I think today we also had it might have been Caleb Williams last night. He's like, actually, you think those are funny interceptions? Check this one out. Bang. Triple coverage. I've got you covered. Here's another 3 dudes. It's awesome. But Pittsburgh 2-0, Denver 0-2. Yeah, it's getting very, very squirrely there. Now we've got the last 3 games. Very fun. 25-26. Cincy come up short against KC because, of course, they did. Harrison Butker just out there, just sending his wife over there to, into the kitchen to get him a nice cold beer after kicking the game-winning field goal. Since he looked back, Mahomes looked all fucky, looked all out of sorts, throwing interceptions. And when he throws an interception, like, it's amazing, like, the look on his face. He's like, wait a minute. That doesn't happen to me. I'm Patrick Mahomes. And it's like, dude, you just didn't see that guy, and he caught your ball. And they kept getting saved time and time again by, like, weird flags, the defensive pass interference late, which was 100% warranted.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, come on. Like, I get it. Yep. It was there. But, like, that's what saved the game.
100%.
Like, if that falls incomplete,
game's over.
That's a different result, right? But look, I don't want to be one of those guys, but the stat busting around of 53 interceptions have been called back by penalties on for the Chiefs, which is the highest stat in the league for, in X period of time. Look, I don't want to be that guy because they're fucking there, but it's just kissed on the dick, right?
The stat is also that Mahomes has also thrown the most passes since 2018 in the NFL. So
there you go.
It's like, it sort of checks
percentage
out.
Of,
Anyway, it's still, I think the craziest interception though was the insane Cam Taylor Britt one, which was just sick. The one-handed, holy shit, like that was unreal. But I think the Cincy defense looked much more solid than it did against the Pats. The offense looked a little bit better. They sort of figured out some stuff in the passing game, like Gesicki was going off apparently. Jamar Chase is pretty fun. But their run game is just shit. And you're like, maybe giving up on Joe Mixon wasn't the smartest thing.
The greatest idea.
What are you doing? So,
well, the other thing, the point worth making is everyone who is going off their fucking head going, oh my God, rookie wide receivers, how did Worthy not go higher in fantasy teams? I'm like, very simply, he plays for the fucking Chiefs. Because whoever is the favorite this week, you can guarantee if Andy Reid thinks that teams are going to hone in on him as a target, they're going somewhere else.
Yep.
And Worthy ended up with 2 receptions for 17 yards this week after being the flavor of the month last week. Like, you just can't bet on receivers in the Chiefs.
I also just want to correct your stat of like in the insane number that you said. I think it's 17.
What did I say? 50 something. I just make up numbers. This is fucking fun.
That's insane. Yeah. 17 interceptions are called back. So yeah.
There you go. I like my number better.
53 sounds awesome. Let's just roll. Fuck it. It's 53 now. Like, it's on the record, motherfuckers. But that was an insane pull it out of absolutely nowhere, game-winning walk-off field goal from Butker because, of course, Mahomes is going to lead the drive that gets him close enough, and they did. And it's just 2 weeks of KC skinning their teeth in it, but that's what they do. Like, that's just what they do now. And, like, if by the time, similar to the Jets, by the time they get to week 6, week 7, and they're humming on all cylinders, like, it should be fine. But it's also very heartening for Cincy, right, that this was as competitive as it was, because if they had gotten their heads kicked in, it would have been fucking panic stations. Chicago 13, Houston 19. Not a barn burner. This had, like, the makings of some fun shit, but then I was just trying to figure out, like, are both defenses just pretty good? Like, Chicago was pretty good. Houston's is obviously pretty good. CJ Stroud had some moments. Will Anderson had some moments as well. But Caleb had some, fun little scrambling moments, but also was throwing interceptions into triple coverage. And you're like, this guy isn't that fucking great, but here we are. I don't know. I'm starting to get slightly worried about Houston not just, like, kicking the shit out of teams like this, Like, last week was fucking neck and neck with Indy, and they've got no defense. This week against a half-decent defense against Chicago, they beat them, but it was like 19-13. Same time, just win, baby, I guess.
Do we expect Diggs to start cracking us ads if he's... I mean, Nico Collins put up 135 yards.
Yeah, Nico was
week.
fucking awesome.
Yeah, and Stephon and Tank Dell's no slouch either. And then Diggs got 6 targets for 37 yards, and he's used to being the guy in both at the Vikings and in the Bills. So you're like, well, at a certain point, if they start to come up against higher powered teams and start to lose, is Stephon going to throw his toys?
Maybe. Wouldn't be a giant surprise. Either way. No. And then finally, Philly-Atlanta. What a fun game this was. Oh, cry, Eagles, cry.
Well, I think the point is, Jim, it wasn't fun for the first half. It was kind of fucking boring and shit. Eagles, it was just fucking dumb. So, look, the Eagles moved the ball. Like, Saquon was, at one stage, was averaging 9 yards a carry. And Hurts started going off with his legs. That was nice to see, better than last year. But on the other side of the ball, like Algier and fucking Bijan there was just holes. The zone running scheme was just fucking amazing, and they didn't really need much from Kirk. And but the Eagles still kind of They were moving it far enough that you're like, oh, they'll take control of this. They eked out a bit of a lead, kept keeping Atlanta to field goals. But it just didn't kind of work out, Jim. Basically, we got to the end of the game where the Eagles were going down the field and trying to just waste time. And to the point where there was a professional foul from the Falcons trying to jump the line when the Eagles were on 3rd and 1 to try and give us the first down so that we couldn't, get the extra set and waste the clock and force them to use. And then on a third and about 3, there was an outside pass to Saquon that it came off his hands, and if he'd secured that catch, it would have been game over. He fucking dropped the pass that he would catch 99% of the time, stops the clock. Eagles are forced to kick a field goal, gives like a minute 40 something for Kirk to march down the field, and Fangio goes into the softest as baby shit, like remnants of Jonathan Gannon, bend don't break fucking defense, and allows Kirk Cousins, who's done nothing all game, to march down the field with receivers open 15 yards every fucking direction and into the end zone where we're down by a point, Jim.
6 plays, 70 yards, 1 minute and 5 seconds.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, where you'd be shattered, except you've got a pretty good kicker who's won games kicking 60 yards, and you've got Smitty, you've got Dallas Goedert, and you've got Saquon, and you're like, that's 30 seconds, and we've got two timeouts. Got a big chunk down to Dallas Goedert. 20 seconds plus a timeout. What does Jalen Hurts do, Jim? Bite off more than he can chew and throw an interception, and it's game fucking over. The Eagles' home opener is lose by a point to a Falcons team that is questionable at best.
Love it.
So I thought I was going to come in angry. I didn't want to face you. I am angry about the game. It's not. I'm not a fan of doing these things straight after a fucking Monday Night Football where we lose, but the Falcons deserve to fucking win that, and the Eagles have got a lot to look at themselves because we take on a pretty good offense. Hey, Jim, when you've got a leaky rush defense, who don't you want to take on? Maybe the guy who scored 4 touchdowns last week, being Alvin Kamara. That's where we have to go next week.
Oh, boy.
So we'll see what fucking happens.
Atlanta are in prime time again as well, which is fascinating. But yeah, I love that
Kirk winning. We let Kirk Cousins win in Monday Night Football, Jim.
He also you sacked him, like he took off for a run and he's like, I'm Kirk Cousins, and he just got fucking pancaked. It was amazing. Yeah. And you're like, Kirk Cousins. Meanwhile, though, I'm like fucking stressing in 2 fantasy leagues because I'm like going against you. I've got like most Atlanta defense. I'm sorted. The other one, I'm like, I don't need Jake Elliott to kick any more field goals. I'm laughing. And so I was like loving that last drive. And then the second where it's like, oh shit, you got 1 to Pitts. And I'm like, we're fucking good in that matchup. And then I was just reveling in like the cacophony of fuck-uppery at the end. So I loved it. So great way to finish the week. Real quick, nahs. As we mentioned, 2-0, 0-2. 0-2, bit of a death sentence. We've talked this about time and time and time again. No 0-2 team last year made the playoffs since, 07, I think. It's 131 and only 13 teams have made the playoffs since 0-2.
There you go.
It's a little bit easier now with the longer schedule, but 0-2, very quickly. Let's do some nahs. How worried are you? Baltimore, 0-2. You worried? Yeah, nah.
Nah.
I'll counterpoint with yeah, because their schedule's fucked because they play. I mean, it doesn't look quite as fucked now because Dallas are a bit more of a question mark. But they are at the Cowboys. Then they play the Bills and the Bengals. Like, none of those are easy beats.
No.
That's fucking hard. They could be 0-5. They probably won't be, but geez. They have to beat Dallas basically this week. Up 10 in the 4th. That's just chaos. Anyway, Cincy. Less worried now. Yeah, nah.
Less worried. Better see some T. Higgins on again and see what's getting back to full strength. We'll see what happens. I'm not, as you mentioned before, that run game is not really setting the world on fire. And that's why, reverting back to the Baltimore one, I'm like, The Bengals, I mean, you're going to end up with two teams who probably aren't, neither of them are 100%, the same as when they take on the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Right? And then they've got to take on the Steelers twice, So you're like, well, Cincy, like, they'll get right, but they start slow every year. There's no time to get worried right now.
Yep. All of the AFC South except for Houston. Indy, worried? Yeah, no.
Yeah, Indy, like, I think we were expecting a little bit with Shane Steichen to be able to show a little bit more with Richardson, but I think it's still, once again, the red zone quarterback, flashy play, bunch of nothing.
4 weeks, they'll be interesting to see how they go. Jacksonville 0-2, I'm a lot more worried about them.
Yeah, we said that, they snuck through last year, but kind of coming back to the pack in terms of their own division. Houston added extra weapons. They seem to be Houston seems to be ticking along a little bit pedestrian at the moment, but you just feel like they're going to kick into gear at some point. You feel like they've got that gear where we're not sure that the Jags do.
Tennessee, worried, versus expectations. Yeah, no.
I don't think we had expectations. Will Levis is
They could also be 2-0 if they hadn't fucked up twice pretty badly,
Yeah, I don't think I didn't have high expectations for them, so I'm not worried. They're exactly where I kind of think that they will be.
Nice one. Denver, worried.
Cooked. Done.
Yep. Wow. The New York Football Giants, they're cooked.
I can't see. And the ultra-competitive NFC East, I can't currently see Daboll making it out of this, or the GM making it out of this season.
It does feel like we're firing everybody and we're sitting Danny Dimes because he's got the $23 million injury guarantee in his contract, the same as Russell Wilson did last year. So we sit him healthy so we don't have to pay him next year. Sucked in.
100%. Yeah.
0-2 Carolina. They're the worst team in the
100%.
NFL.
100%. It's going to be, by the end of the season, it'll be interesting to see them and Denver.
Yeah.
Because as much as Bo Nix appears at this point to be a better quarterback than Bryce with a better potential, he's just got no fucking weapons. And Sean Payton just doesn't seem to be doing much for him yet. But the funny thing is, with Carolina, there's going to be a false economy because the Red Rifle can win you games.
Maybe.
Like he'll eke out a couple, so it'll cover some of that stuff up. But yeah, they're all terrible.
The toughest and the biggest one might be, like, is that it? Like, can the Rams make the playoffs? Yeah, no.
Yeah, look,
injuries.
When
might be too much.
They could. It's very realistic with Kupp and Puka out that they just go 0-4 in the next 4 games. And fuck, mate, like, do you start looking towards the next season because it's a competitive space that they play in? Yeah, tough.
All right, overreaction 2-0. Buffalo, good.
Yeah, good.
Pittsburgh.
Good. I'm okay with that.
Fake good or actual good? Yeah, no.
No, fake good.
Okay.
We said this at the beginning of the season that their second half, they need to be above 500 when you turn for home in the season because the second half of their schedule is fucking brutal.
It's a great call.
And so, yeah, they need to be jumping. And then look at who they're playing. They're still not putting up points. Like, nothing's changed from last year. And their defense has always been good. So they, at a certain point, they're going to have to win games scoring more than 15 to 20 points.
Maybe. Haven't they, they've scored 1 touchdown across the 2 games?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But they've won both. Chargers. Actual good. Yeah, no.
That's interesting. It's interesting because they're winning well.
Yep.
And kind of clean, but you still, when you look at on paper, they still don't have those weapons in the passing game around Jazzy. And while the running backs their talent was never questionable, they do have an injury history. So we'll see how Gus Edwards and Dobbins go later in the year.
They've also beaten the Raiders and the fucking Panthers. So
yeah, but the Raiders just beat the fucking Ravens. So
sure.
I know, getting back to our earlier point, but
Houston,
who knows?
Buying it? Yeah, nah.
Yeah, look. Yeah, I think, as we said, they're feeling a bit pedestrian at the moment. I think these things will click in. I think they've got the potential to really put a stamp on that division based on what we're seeing from Indy and Jacksonville, and just come on, man. Like now this is where you should dominate. You were a year ahead of expectation last year. Now is when you put your foot down and go, fuck you guys.
Yeah, you got to
foot
learn
on the throat kind of shit.
You got to learn how to win ugly and just keep winning, which is kind of what they're doing.
Yeah.
4 more 2-0s. We've got Minnesota. Yeah, nah, actually good.
Wow, Minnesota. I mean, they've got in that division. All of a sudden, they've got the potential to take advantage of some less than ideal situations, right? And Darnold is, he's playing all right.
Darnold MVP. Yeah, nah.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. I wouldn't knock. Look, we're not going that far. But,
Coward. Anyway.
Yeah.
Seattle, 2-0. Playoff team. Yeah, nah.
I'm not convinced by them yet. There's a lot of ugliness about it.
Yep.
It might all come together, but it also might fall apart with the first year coach shit, right? So
I find them fascinating because that division alone, you've got the Niners 1-1, injury problems, Cardinals 1-1, who knows what the fuck they are, Rams injured just out the wazoo.
Fuck, yeah.
If they can sneak a couple of like division wins that they probably might not have expected, they'll be laughing. And then obviously the other two massive ones in the South, Tampa Bay 2-0, legit. Yeah, nah.
I don't fucking know. They're the next two. I honestly,
and the Saints,
I don't know. You called me a coward before. This is definitely a coward one. Like, I don't fucking know. At least Tampa Bay have got, proof in the pudding kind of shit as a playoff team. Still got Godwin, still got fucking Evans, and fucking Baker's just fun. He's scrambly. He's fucking hitting players down the field, and you're like, oh, fuck yeah, all right, cool.
Checks out.
Like, I'd like to think that they are. I'd like to think that they could make a bit of a run, particularly with a lot of the injuries going around the NFC, if they can stay healthy. And they're not healthy at the moment.
Yeah.
As we touched on before. If they get a few players back, they could, that's South. Fuck, mate. Which transitions into the next one.
Like New Orleans 2-0, are they like with the best point differential in the fucking league? Like they've scored, 66 points in 2 games or something fucking chaotic. Like, for real, what do you reckon?
I don't know. We made a joke last week.
Wait, no, 96 points. What did I say? 66, 96.
Yeah. So we made a joke last week going, oh, yeah, they kicked the shit out of the Panthers. They'll get a fucking reality check. But look, the Cowboys, we had them picked as, yes, they're not what the Cowboys once were, but they're still should be a double-digit win team. And to come out and can kick the shit out of them as convincing as they did at Jerry World, like, fucking hell, man. Sustainability of that, I don't know, but fucking Kamara and Derek Carr and it's looking fucking good, right?
So my hatred of Dennis Allen is basically being outweighed by their rookie cornerback.
Right.
Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yeah.
His actual name, Producer Gerald.
Yep.
Kool-Aid. Spelt as you'd expect, like the fucking thing, cool, Kool. What, 2 L's, not that, 2 O's, not 3 or 4. Kool-Aid McKinstry. Absolute weapon. Love it. Only thing that can get me liking the Saints. All right, 2 really quick ones. Should Tua play again this season? Yeah, nah.
I mean, we touched on this extensively at the beginning of the show. I as a football fan, I'd love to see it, and I'd love him to come back and go, oh, the doctors have cleared me, everything's great. I can't do any more potential damage, but it just doesn't seem realistic.
Yep.
That
leads it into, I guess, is if he doesn't, that's Miami cooked, yeah, nah?
You'd think so, right? I just can't imagine.
Is that Tom Brady's music? Let's go. Yeah. All right. Good bloke of the week. Who are we buying a beer this week? Kickers. Just kickers.
Fuck.
If you're a kicker, you get a beer because you did the Lord's work this week. Jaden Siebert for the Commanders, kicked 7. That is insane. Yeah, Jason Myers with the walk-off as well in overtime for the Seahawks. You had Harrison Butker with the walk-off. You had just absolute chaos left, right, and center for kickers. They all get a beer. Kamara gets a beer for his 3 rushing touchdowns and 1 receiving one, which was basically a rush because he was a little flick and off he went. That was awesome. Spewy Green Bay linemen get a beer this week, Gaz. We didn't even mention this. Josh Myers.
So I actually had it in the game review, and then I saw that you'd referenced it earlier. And way back at the beginning of the show, Jim, when I said I guess, I thought that's what you were going to do.
I thought about it.
He, for those who didn't see, the center vomited on the football, and then Malik Willis changed the play out from a pass to a handoff, and he got questioned after the game. It was like, there was spew on the ball.
Yeah, Josh fucking spewed on it. I'm not going to throw it. What do you like? It's covered in spew, man.
It's slippy and shit, and yeah,
I loved it. But also, I just love it. Who hasn't like fucking puked and gone back to the party? Like that's what it's all about. What is it? The spew and rally?
Yeah.
I love it. I fucking love that. That's what you're going to do when you get a bit older there, Gerald. I'm telling you. Marvin Harrison, he gets a beer. That was fucking awesome.
That was epic.
What a game. Yep. Travis Kelce gets a beer again. The amount of time, like, talk about like Mahomes throwing INTs and getting called back. Kelce himself drew like 3 flags throughout this game where you're like, fuck, they needed that flag. Wanya Morris as well. Who doesn't love a big man touchdown? That was awesome. Offensive lineman touchdown.
Rumble, young man.
Love that. And then my final and favorite one who gets a beer, the ref. The ref in the Minnesota Niners game, Gaz, sign him up. He was fucking faster than the safeties in the Justin Jefferson touchdown. And he's running backwards. He's got the hip swivel. He's like, fucking yes, check this out. Fucking Speedy Gonzalez. It was sick. God damn it. He was everywhere. He's better than all the Pats fucking receivers the last decade. Holy shit. Loved it. Anyway. Flog of the week. Oh, mate. No, mates. Bryce Young. That's pretty obvious. First overall pick last year, benched. He had no pass attempts go further than 12 yards downfield this year. So I believe you wanted to break down the trade again.
Yeah, look, obviously you can't blame a dude for where they're picked. They don't get a choice in that. But just wanted to revisit what they gave up. Jim, DJ Moore, it cost them DJ Moore. It cost them the 2023 and 2024 first round picks, of which obviously this is for it all went to the Bears, sorry. Of which obviously the 2024 pick was Caleb. So if he works out, then that's even fucking worse. But also the 2023 and 2025 second. So Jim, it means that not only is he benched, but to add insult to injury, they also still have to give up next year's second for a guy who might not be playing, where they've already given up the franchise quarterback and their number 1 wide receiver. Like, fuck.
It's a disaster how bad he looks.
Yep.
Like, if Drake May comes out and looks that bad, I'm just it is... Like, that's 3 years, like me looking in the future of 3 years at least of misery. Just going, what? But at least we didn't give up the fucking, farm for Drake May, right? Like, that's the other kick in the guts of that one, where you're like, our number 1 overall pick is shit. Oh, but also we've completely fucked it in every other way. And we traded all this oh, God.
But assumedly they'll have a 2025 first. So when they're the worst team in the league, they have their choice of quarterbacks. But once again, still got no one around him.
Yep. When does Arch Manning come out?
Yeah.
Let's find out. Jamar Chase, he gets an old mate, no mates. The unsportsmanlike penalty in the 4th pushed them back out of field goal range to put them up. I think it would have been 2 scores. So that really fucked, or at least over the bit where they could be tracked down. So that wasn't great. He apparently used pretty brutal fucking language to the refs as well. So they were like, Jamar, fuck you. You can't do that. So 15 yards, piss off. Damar Hamlin being the one that took out Tua. What the hell, man? Did you come back as some sort of karma demon or some shit? I thought you were meant to be on the good side now. You've been reborn. You died on the field, man. And you're taking out Tua. And then finally, the Giants. This is hilarious. 0-2 in 10 of the last 12 years. That entire...
Oh, I didn't know that. There you go. I didn't know that. And I love tracking those bullshit Giant stats.
That is just...
That's fucking great.
Old mate, no mates is a franchise. Outback Takehouse for this week. It's Tuesday at Outback. You know what that means? Oh, yeah. Hungy wombat. We found a wombat in the backyard. Made sure he fucking stayed there. Fucking couple of people's elbows. Threw the squids on him and off they went. They fucking just beat him to death with sticks. We chucked him in the fucking hole in the ground, lit the fire and off she went. Bloody just falls off the bone though, the old hungy wombat. And it's only at Outback. And today's Flame Girl take is Doug Peterson will be the first coach fired as the Jacksonville Jaguars go 0-7 to start the season. Only at Outback. Now, I'm going to check this because I hadn't actually looked at their schedule before I said that. But they do play at the Bills. They play at the Texans. They are home against the Colts. That could be 0-5, guys. They then host the Bears. Tricky. That defense is still tricky. They then host the Pats. They host the Packers, Eagles, Vikings, Lions. They have to fucking hope they beat the Bears and the Pats, or else Dougie P's out of a job.
And I would say Indy at the same time.
True.
In that division, because one of the things is that's circling around everywhere is that would be the most wanted coaching job for next year. If Dougie P's about, I'm pretty tired, boys. People want to have a crack at coaching Trevor Lawrence because he was supposed to be this wonderkind and no one's made the most out of him. So
even supposed QB whisperer, Dougie P.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, really quickly, little Aussie Butler of the week. Aussie Outlook, Daniel Falale. He is not having a great time, which sucks for the Aussie. Not looking great out there. Right guard. It's not great when there's highlights about you sucking.
Yeah.
That even Ravens fans are like, look, it's just not good. What are we doing? And it's like, got to get rid of him. And you're like, all right, fucking Jesus. This sucks. But I think it was, Max Crosby is just like walking by him. Like one move and he's just gone. You're like, oh, shit. That's not good. Torrey Taylor, though, had prime time. Looked very, very good as in that game as well for the Bears. I fucking love him. He's awesome. We'll balance out the good and the bad in that one.
Yep.
Captain Fantasy. Massive games alert. We had some big ones this week, Gaz. Kamara goes for 44. I use the ESPN scoring just because it's easy to organise and what's just happened. Kyler Murray looked awesome as well. There's one thing we didn't quite hit on too much in the Cards game, but he looked fucking fantastic. Devon A-Chain, 29.5 points. Looked absolutely unreal in a game where they scored 10 points. Like, that's fucking nuts. Marvin Harrison had 29. DK was incredible, 28.9. James Cook, 28.5. Like Neighbours, as you mentioned, 28.7. He popped off. So, revisiting the panic stations from last week, Jamar Chase, are you still worried about the Bengals offense, Chase warming up into the season? I feel like I was a little bit more heartened this week. But if you spent like a fucking top 3 pick on him or top 6 even, you're just like, oh, this sucks.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill, you'd be worried about that as well for the same sort of
I mean, I had the second overall and only had put up 5 this week. Well, between... yes, he won, but between Josh Allen and Tyreek Hill, they put up a total of 14 points in our half PPR league. Meanwhile, Shaheed's been on the bench just going off his fucking head. But it's been really weird for tight ends as well. You mentioned Mark Andrews.
Last week, I mentioned Mark Andrews last week, and it's like he was fine-ish this week, likely disappeared back off the face of the planet.
Yep.
Kelsey up and down. Pitts did fuck all again.
Been weird. So, Pitts. But then McBride and fucking Bowers coming out. It's a weird year for Dallas Goedert's been down. It's Kittle injured and he's been up and down. It's a weird year for tight ends who are supposed to be the pass catching ones as well.
True. So the other ones that we sort of mentioned last week, Neighbours and Harrison, they were fine. Same with Amon Ra. It's like receivers, they'll have boom or bust weeks. You're just hoping for the consistency out of them then. Same with Drake London. He actually was way better against the Eagles, especially in that second half. He didn't have like a massive fantasy game or anything, but at least with the combination of Kirk Cousins looking okay again for a second, and like Pitts, London, was it Darnell Mooney? Like they looked competent again, and that's kind of all you want from like your Atlanta offensive weapons, and Bijan was good too. So,
yep.
Yeah, we'll dig into some more fantasy next week as well. Before that,
you didn't mention that you took me down, so that was after.
I didn't want to take too much of a victory lap because I kicked the shit out of you, but that's all right. You know?
Yeah, it's fine.
I had to get a win, so I lost last week pretty badly. But anyway, take that. I think in terms of other people from this week, like, are you starting to get worried about like, I don't know, CD Lamb? Justin Jefferson looks fine. Obviously, 97-yard touchdown helps. But if you're taking like AJ Brown, you're just like, what the fuck? You've obviously got injuries to Pacheco, McCaffrey, Deebo, Joe Mixon, Cooper Kupp. Like, these are all dudes that have probably gone in the first 4 rounds. Like, it's a bit fucking squirrely.
Yeah.
And there's not, for a lot of them as well, there's not too many, like Jordan Mason, obviously, as your backup from McCaffrey. Would have been handy, but good luck if you got him. So, tough one.
It's weird fantasy year.
All right, let's do picks for week 3. NFL Straya's week 3 picks. Let's do it, Gaz. I think you picked me by 1 again this week. We had a Barry Crocker shocker as well. I think we went 5 and I went 5, you went 6.
Like I was looking at my tips. I was thinking like I've had a fucking shocker here. This is not fucking great. And then I looked at our picks from last week and went, I still managed to pick up 1 on Jim.
Yeah.
So in 2 weeks, I'm 6 ahead?
6 ahead.
5. Yeah, 6 ahead.
Yeah, 6 ahead over 2 weeks. Not bloody bird. Jesus. Anyway, let's do it for week 3. We start off with the Pats at the Jets. The Jets are 6.5-point favorites. I want to take the Pats because I think that defense can really sort of stymie them, but I struggle to see how their offense really starts putting the hurt on the Jets, if you know what I mean. Like, I think Cincy's D in week 1 didn't look very good. They were not ready for that team, and they still fucking scored only, 16-1. The Jets defense looked a little bit better against Tennessee. Not great or lights out, but at home, I think they can win by a touchdown, so I'm going to take the Jets minus 6.5. You've gone the Pats, though.
Yeah, look, I think Rodgers will still sneak out a win, but I think it'll be similar to this week that the Pats keep it close. Your defense keeps it low and dirty, and the Jets, they still weren't setting the world on fire. It's going to be a defensive slugfest, and then Rodgers is going to do just enough to get the win over the line. So I think the Jets will win, but you guys will keep it closer.
Yeah,
under 6.5.
Wouldn't be surprised if by the time I do the Thursday picks, I actually swing that around and you're getting a message going, I'm going the Pats. Giants, Cleveland. The Browns are 6.5-point favorites against the Giants.
It's a lot, Jim.
It is a lot. I hated this one.
Offense.
Like Deshaun is shit ass, but I think Cleveland's defense is still good enough, right? To at least go, fuck you, Danny Dimes, especially at home. If you remember last year, Cleveland at home were fucking way better than on the road, especially their defense. To the tune, I think they gave up 13 points a game versus 30 or some shit on the road. So, 23. It was like a 10-point difference, I think. So, I'm still going to go Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm the same. Look, I just 6.5 is a lot, but look, even this week when they put up when Danny Dimes put up a couple of touchdowns, it was 170 yards, of which 120 was to Neighbors or whatever it fucking was. Yeah. That defense, if they shut down Neighbors, he's got no one else to go to, and their defense is terrible. If you get past that defensive line, they've got nothing in the secondary. So I think Cleveland will. Get a bit of a confidence booster here.
New Orleans hosting Philly, and they are 2.5-point favorites now. They were 1.5-point underdogs before today's game, which is interesting. We're both going New Orleans. Yeah,
I think I'm really concerned about the Eagles' run game, and I'm really concerned about us putting up points without AJ.
Yep.
I think that we don't have another receiving. We need someone else to step up who's not Devontae Smith.
If this was in Philly, I'd probably still lean towards the Eagles, but in New Orleans, I think it's a bit tougher.
Yeah, I'm confident with the Eagles.
Indy, Chicago. Indy 1.5-point favorites over the Bears. We've both gone Indy, which I'm now worried about with the fucking Indy defensive injuries and stuff. I'm kind of I still don't know if Chicago will be able to keep up with them on offense though.
Yeah, There have been some random bombs from Richardson, but Caleb hasn't really shown anything yet.
Yeah.
So this could be just a horrible game with very few highlights. But so 1.5 points, it really could go either way. So I literally went the home team.
Yeah. It could also be just like, I'm sneaky, like fully into this game. Chicago, Indy is going to be fucking chaos. Jonathan Taylor, Pittman, I think it's going to be Indy. Chargers, Pittsburgh, also fun. You never see, like, I feel like this is a weird combination we never really ever see play. So we've both gone the Chargers, which is pretty weird considering how Pittsburgh's defense has been really good. They're at home. Chargers are staying out east, though. I think historically the Chargers had struggled traveling east, so staying east, I kind of trusted a little bit. The defense looks pretty good. I just don't know if Pittsburgh's offense is going to be, like, able to put up enough to keep the Chargers away. So even getting a 1.5 for the Chargers where they could still lose this by 1 point in like 19 or 19-18 or some shit, you can see it happening, right? So
yeah, I think I'm putting it down to the Chargers defense isn't as good as Pittsburgh's, but the Pittsburgh's offense is a lot worse than the Chargers, right? So it's just a matter of which side of the ball can outlast the other.
Yep.
And I feel like Chargers have got just enough juice to eke that one out.
Nice one. Houston, Minnesota. The Vikings are 2.5 point underdogs at home.
Yeah.
Whew. I'm going to go Houston. Stephon Diggs revenge incoming. Let's go.
If we make the assumption that a home game's worth 3 points, as the traditional way was, that's a 5.5 point swing to Houston. That Minnesota defense has been good, and Minnesota offense has been doing all right. So yeah, look, I think I'm comfortable. I'm sticking with Minnesota for this one.
There is always like a weird random team that's like, 5-0, and you're like, where the fuck did that come from? And like, it's been Minnesota in the past couple of years as well.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised there. But
yeah, look, and also we think Houston will be fine, but they are running a little bit pedestrian at the moment. Yep. So running into a team that is a surprise, that they don't, play that often.
Yep.
Could be one that it's a trap game.
Most for who? I like that. Tampa Bay hosting Denver, 6.5 point favorites. This is feels squirrely as well, just because Denver will just drag this into the mud. But Tampa Bay have been that good. Fuck it, I'm going Tampa Bay.
Yeah, too. Look, this could be 2 points. It could just as easily be 14.
Yep.
It could be and anywhere in between. But when you're looking at the form of both teams, I'd like to think that Tampa Bay can get this over a touchdown. Sorry.
Yep. Green Bay, Tennessee. Tennessee are 2.5 point favorites against the Packers, and we've both gone Tennessee.
I didn't like this one. I'm just going to assume that at some point a team is going to force it into Willis's hands, and he's not good. So yeah, obviously I can't say they're surprised, but they took someone down last week by just running the ball 30,000 times.
Yep.
I think Tennessee will be more prepared for that.
100%. That's exactly my reasoning behind this. They'll go, hey, what are you going to do, Malik Willis? Not throw the ball because I'm your old quarterback, remember? It's like, oh, yeah, we remember. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Raiders, Carolina. We've both gone the Raiders. 5. That's actually moved down. That was 5.5 points. It was 6.5 points yesterday. It's now 5.5 after Andy Dalton got announced. I still like the Raiders. So,
yeah. Look, it's Andy Dalton and DeAndre Miles Sanders.
Yep.
That's the weapons he's got around him.
Let's go.
Nah.
Seattle, Miami, 6.5 as well in this one. A lot of 6.5s and 5.5s this week. We've both gone Seattle. Miami without Tua, can't do it on the road.
That's not great.
Arizona, Detroit, 2.5 point underdogs, Arizona. I'm going Detroit because it's indoors. I think they bounce back and we get an awesome shootout.
I'm really struggling with this one because the defense for Arizona has been playing well. The offense and the defense for Detroit has been questionable, apart from Aiden Hutchinson. Fuck it. Let's add some spice to it. I'm going Arizona.
Nice.
You always bitch at me like, oh, I would do my picks first and you strategically do it. So fuck it. I'm picking against you.
Nice. I'll pay that. Don't strategically go against me and, we're laughing. It's all good. Baltimore,
it's
Dallas.
It's all right, mate. I'm fucking 6 up in 2
weeks.
The
shit out of me. That's why. Dallas, half-point underdogs at home against the Ravens. We're both gone the Ravens. It's the game they got to win, right?
It's well, to be fair, it almost feels like for both of them.
Yep.
And could you imagine losing 2 games in a row at Jerry World? Oof. Like, fuck. But yeah, Baltimore, I think, need this a bit more. And I think they've got a bit of a point to prove. And I just think that they're a better team. Like we're talking at the beginning of the year that Dallas were not where they were. Yes, they're a playoff contender and they're a double-digit team. But we're talking about Baltimore as fucking up there in terms of the favorites.
Yep.
So it's got to get a get right game. So
and if you're going to gash a run D, do it with Lamar and Derrick Henry. Off you go.
Yeah.
Niners, Rams. Rams are 7.5-point underdogs at home. We're both gone the Niners. There's just too many injuries for the Rams, right? I just feel like the Niners will have. But what I have to remember is like, wait, who beats who? It was Pete Carroll always beat somebody. Now he's gone, but Shanahan always beats McVay, or McVay always beats Shanahan. I think it's Shanahan beats McVay. So I don't know. I just don't think the Rams have enough anyway, regardless of who's playing, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Shanahan is 10-5 over McVay.
That's sad, but yeah.
All right. We then have Chiefs Atlanta, 4.5-point underdogs at home of the Falcons. It's going to be a loud game. It's going to be a chaos game. I'm tempted to take Atlanta with the plus 4.5 against this scrappy, kind of gross KCD sometimes. And after seeing Atlanta today, I kind of might have to.
Jim, I don't want to give them a false insecurity, but apart from their run game, they weren't good. I'm sorry. The Eagles should have won that game. The Atlanta deserved to win it, but they were out. They were not the better team. Kirk Cousins wasn't great until that soft, like as I mentioned.
Yeah, he looked awesome.
Had receivers open by 15 fucking yards.
It was the same pass 3 different times. It was insane.
I don't think KC let him get away with that.
Yep.
I think KC's got him covered to the tune of more than 4.5.
Yeah, I still think this is like a 23-20 KC win, very similar to what we saw this week. Jacksonville at Buffalo. These are the 2 Monday night games. So we've got 2 games. So KC Atlanta is the Sunday night, our Monday game. Then we have 2 Monday night football games throughout Tuesday. They always throw like the early season double Monday night double headers at us, and it's like, this is a weird one. Jacksonville, Buffalo, and Washington, Cincy.
Yep.
Sure. Washington, Cincy is a fucking strange game. Like I don't think they've ever played, ever. Like I don't have any memory of Washington playing against Cincinnati. Jacksonville, Buffalo though, 5.5-point favorites, both gone Buffalo, and 8.5-point favorites, we've both gone Cincy over Washington. It just feels like Washington and Jacksonville just aren't good enough to keep up with both those numbers. Washington, Cincy, 8.5. I feel like this is the Cincy game. It's like 22-10. Jacksonville, Buffalo, that's like, 23 to fucking 14 again, and they've covered no hassles, both of them.
Agreed. So, look, I think there's no... Yeah, I think both of those teams win comfortably because Jacksonville aren't great and neither are Washington. So I think I'm just going to summarize it that way.
That's pretty good.
Look, I think Jalen Daniels is playing fun.
Yep.
He's probably the best of the rookie QBs showing up at the moment. With probably the least I'm not going to say the least expectation, but everything's a win for him, and he's showing that in his feet and pulling off the odd pass here, there, and everywhere. So look, he's great, but also playing a team that should be a legit playoff team, so should have their ass handed to them.
Yeah. So this is week 3. It's prime time. Jaden Daniels, Washington QB. This just screams to me Robert Griffin first year.
Yeah, don't do that.
No, I'm just thinking like there were those early season games where he's just awesome, and you're like, holy fucking shit, he looks unreal. It's like the second year where he fucks his knee or whatever, right? And it's not good. Anyway, so there you go. There's all the picks. Week 3. There's some really good games in there. There's also like a couple of absolute fucking stinkers. So it's going to be a weird mix, but I don't know. I think I've got next Tuesday off. That's going to be awesome. Double header. We're just parking the squid in front of the TV and go, I'm looking after you for school holidays, chum. Watch some football with Dad. All right, there you go. That's it for episode 102 of NFL Straya, however. So make sure you're following us on Facey, IG, Twitter, TikTok. That's right. We're on the TikTok and smashing it too. So check it out or I'll fight you.
There you go.
Fang us a rating review on your iTunes, your Apple Podcasts, your Spotify's, your YouTube Musics, all the good stuff there.
The YouTube one is very interesting. We've only had a channel up for 3 weeks, Jim. A couple of hundred subscribers, getting over 1,000 views.
It's pretty good.
Go spruik us.
So,
because the more the interaction that we get, the more that people like us and we can do, Jim. The more the people interest we get.
If you do check it out on YouTube, leave a comment, like it, make sure you subscribe to it, and because we'll throw the comments in the fucking show as well. Any other
mate, some people are liking making some comments on your power rankings.
My power rankings have rubbed a few folks the wrong way. That's fine. That's what the power rankings are for. Like, hey, I don't make the rules. I make the power rankings, but the teams did it to themselves, guys.
Yep.
The teams did it. I didn't do it. I'm just relaying it from the cosmos into what's going on. People get very upset. Anyway, so go check it out on YouTube. A lot of NFL Straya fun stuff up there. Some of the shorts pop up as well. So get right around and get around the AFL Today Show as well if you're into your footy. AFLW Today Show for the same thing. Football Today if you're into your soccer. Cricket Today podcast. And, of course, NBA Australia, which will be back, oh, God, in only a couple of weeks. Fuck me. That sucks. Hold all tickets as well for your GGs. Have you got any other plugs there, Gaz? You've had your 2 gigs. What else?
No, you know what I might do, Jim? I might pump up the charity thing for the marathon. I'm doing the full Melbourne Marathon for the first time in a few weeks. I'm now, as of the weekend just passed, was 4 weeks to go. Training's going well. I'm doing it for Berry Street, which is some underprivileged kids and stuff who weren't born in the same situations as I've been lucky enough to be born in. So I might get that link posted on the socials, and anyone who wants to drop by and say, hey, dickhead, just make sure you survive, and I'll see you at the pub for a beer. I'd be happy to take your money.
Pretty good. Very smart. Very nice cause. Do good. All right, well, there you go. That'll do us, I guess. We'll have to catch you next week for week 3 wraps. But at the same time, keep an eye on the socials. Lots of stuff popping off.
Yeah.
Or we'll fight you. All right, we'll catch you in a bit, you dickheads.
See yous.
Later, hosen.